Welcome back to another edition of Baseball for Maniacs. So, this episode is just going to go over kind of the Dave Dombrowski comments today, the Rob Thompson comments, the JT Realmuto comments. So, basically, right after the Bo Bichette signing and debacle, you kind of expected Dombrowski to address the media, kind of talk about what's going on, because as I mentioned before, the fallout in the city, if we did not get Bo Bichette, would have been astronomical. And of course, we didn't get Bo Bichette. So whatever I predicted, kind of happened. Because here's the thing about Philly. If we would have gone into this offseason under the notion that we were just going to run it back, we have a good club, Dave Dombrowski's famous quote, it would have sucked, but it would have also kind of been not understandable, but you kind of knew what was going to happen going in, to where it's always the hope that kills you, to where we wouldn't have gotten so high to come crashing down. We would have kind of been just right here. So I just want to go over his comments. I want to go over some of his offseason moves, kind of grade them. And after this episode, if there's no moves that are to be made afterwards, which based on Dave Dombrowski's comments, that's the most likely scenario. I don't want to keep harping on this failure of an offseason because I don't want to be Mr. Negative. I like to pride myself in being a hopeful Phillies fan because I love the game, man. I love Phillies baseball. I love tuning in every single day with the hope of maybe this is the year we end the season down Broad Street, holding up a World Series championship. But it is my obligation to go through this kind of stuff, kind of give you guys the content because I want to let you know what's going on. Obviously, I'm pretty sure you guys know what's going on, but I kind of just want to give you my perspective. So, when they asked Dave Dombrowski about losing out on Bo Bichette, this was his quote. "It's a gut punch. That day you were very upset, I guess is the way to say it. You have to pick yourself up and shake it off. You can't just wallow in what took place." Now, that comment doesn't piss me off. It doesn't infuriate me. It's the comments he made afterwards that do. Because, of course, you want to hear that your president of baseball operations is upset. You want to hear that he's pissed off. Now, what are you going to do about it? And his answer is really nothing. So then those comments aren't even valid because you're really not upset. Because if you were upset, you would have done something about it. You would have pivoted to a trademark market. You would have done something to improve the ball club. You would have brought back Harrison Bader. Your pivot was JT Realmuto. And we're going to get into that, to where I'm not upset that JT is a Philly because the catching market sucks. JT's still a great catcher. He may be still top 5, at least top 10. He's a good player, but it's the market that wasn't there to where you didn't have to pay him what he was asking for. But we'll get into all that. Now, the comments that pissed me off even more because, like I said, I'm happy that Dave Dombrowski is pissed off. I'm happy that the Phillies organization was floored. But if you're not going to do something about it, then your comments are not valid. They're not true. Because here's the thing. If you're upset about something, you're truly upset about it. I don't know. Let's do an example to where you're a kid and you get beat up in a fight and you got embarrassed, you're crying. That anger and that embarrassment should drive you to, I don't know, learn how to fight, toughen up a little bit, train, right? Because you never want to feel like that again. But if you're a kid and you feel like that and you do nothing about it and you kind of just wallow in it, then it didn't really affect you the way you said it did. So that's kind of where I'm getting with the next comments with Dave Dombrowski. So his next comment, people forget we signed Schwarber. If we hadn't re-signed him, I don't know how I would be feeling about the wintertime. No one forgot that you signed Kyle Schwarber. No one in Philadelphia forgot that. We applauded you for signing Kyle Schwarber. And here's the thing. President of baseball operations should not get praised for signing someone. Because here's the thing. You get a strict amount of money from the owner, right? And it's your job to just pay the man. That's all you have to do. Going into the offseason, the Phillies' mindset was whatever Schwarber gets on the market, we'll match it because he wants to come back to Philly. It's a match made in heaven. So what skill is there in that? To where people forget you signed Schwarber. No one forgot, dude. No one forgot you signed Kyle Schwarber. But we're not going to give you your roses and petals because you just signed someone. Like, if you would have made a creative trade, which I know, Dave, it's so hard for you to do, that's where you would get your roses and your flowers. But, like, for him to throw that in our face, or like, look what I did. You didn't do anything. You deserve no credit for signing Kyle Schwarber. And in reality, with the Kyle Schwarber signing, here's going into this offseason, there was two choices, right? It was either, well, really three. It was either do a reset year, kind of let the young kids play, reset the luxury tax, and then go attack the free agent market in the next few years, or you go all in. And then the worst option of all, which is what they have done, is run it back and stay in the middle. You either go this way or you go that way. And when you signed Kyle Schwarber, that was you telling us we're going all in. That's what it should have been. And they didn't do that. And then going back to the next quote that he said, they asked him about Cody Bellinger and Framber Valdez, if the Phillies are going to be in on any big-time free agents. Dave Dombrowski said no. He says we're okay with where our club's at. Now, on those two free agents, I don't blame him for not wanting to go there, because it goes back to the point of the Phillies don't have unlimited money. They don't have the money like the Dodgers. They don't have the money like the Mets, to where those organizations can just pay. And if the contract falters out, it's not going to affect them. Key example was the Dodgers signing Michael Conforto to a 1-year, $17 million contract. Signing Tanner Scott. Both of those players weren't on the postseason roster. They can afford to make those mistakes. We can't. Because if you look at the offseason after 23 and 24, why couldn't we get any of the big-time free agents? Because we made bad decisions signing Taijuan Walker and Nick Castellanos, to where I'm not upset of them not going after another bad contract, because I think Cody Bellinger is not worth the contract he's going to get. I think he's a good player, but I wouldn't sign him to that. Now, if money wasn't a problem, you could just bring in good players, similar to what the Mets did with Bo Bichette. Cool, bring him in. It doesn't matter. Unfortunately, we're not in that place as an organization. Framber, we already know the deal with Framber. I don't think he's a good clubhouse guy. He quite literally tried to kill his teammate. I don't want that in Philly. So I'm not upset with them not going after those free agents. What I'm upset about is when he said we think we're content with our ball club. Go out and make a trade. Go do something. Be creative. Because here's the thing. You already told us that you weren't content with your club. You didn't think the club was good enough because you went after Bo Bichette. Being in the Bo Bichette sweepstakes played your hand. Everyone in Philadelphia knows the Phillies weren't good enough, especially with the lineup. Everyone knows we don't have a real cleanup hitter. Alec Boehm's going to be the cleanup hitter again. Like, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So it's just infuriating, to where, like, the club's not good enough, to where, going back on the original point of re-signing Kyle Schwarber, why would you do that if you didn't have any intentions of really improving the ball club? Because the payroll is the same. It is a top 4 payroll. It's going to wipe past the $300 million. So the money is there. John Middleton has done a great job. But the problem is John Middleton has trusted the wrong person with his money, and that is Dave Dombrowski. Because if you look at his signings, they have been terrible. Nick Castellanos, Taijuan Walker, Whit Merrifield, Max Kepler, Jordan Romano, like, all those little moves pile up to where that's like $50 million on the payroll, to where you can't get a star anymore. So it's like, it doesn't make any sense that you think you're content with your ball club when you've already told us that you're not. But that's Dave for you. And then it gets to the point of the tone deaf. It's like, everyone in Philadelphia knows your famous quote, Dave. We got a good club. We won 96 games. We won the NL East. We know, dude. I got a Phillies flag. I'm decked out in Phillies gear. Of course I know you guys won 96 games. Of course I know theoretically we have a good club. But here's the thing. We are farther away from a World Series than we were at the start of the offseason. To where you might feel like that. The Phillies organization might feel like that, but it's not the time to say that. What you should have said is, look, we're pissed off that we didn't get Bo Bichette. It sucks. We have to move on, but we are doing everything in our power to improve the ball club. That comment would have resonated with Philadelphia Phillies fans. Instead, you went the tone-deaf route and said, we got a good club. To where it's like, come on, dude, like, have some feel. But let me scroll. So let me get into the Phillies free agent moves, kind of just grade it, kind of give my opinion on the offseason in totality. So first things first, re-signing Kyle Schwarber. Love the move, but I would have loved it more if it was under the notion that you were going all in. Because yes, you can say that a $300 million payroll is all in, but it's really not because of what money is being allocated to certain players. Nick Castellanos, Taijuan Walker, Aaron Nola, that contract extension looks terrible, to where it's like you had the opportunity to go one way or the other. You could have not brought back Kyle Schwarber. You could have had a reset year. You could have got under the luxury tax to where you can prime yourself for a better position going forward. What you did was you brought Kyle back and you didn't make any real improvements to the ball club, to where, yes, you're spending all that money. Yes, you're going to be in the past a third luxury tax again. Yes, you're going to lose draft picks. But for what? Because you're not closer to the Dodgers, and I already know what they believe. They said, well, in the NLDS, it was very close. It could have gone one way or the other, and I completely agree. But here's the thing. The Dodgers got the best closer in baseball. Well, one of the best closers in baseball. You can kind of make your own assumption. Either way, he's a top 3 closer in the game. They got Edwin Diaz, and then they got Kyle Tucker, to where it's like, yes, at the end of the 2025 season when they lost to the Dodgers, it was like this. But now it's like this. Because guess what? The Phillies are a worse team right now than when they ended the 2025 season in Los Angeles on October 9th around 9:30. What a day that was. Because you lost Ranger. Yes, flip-flop to Adolis Garcia, and that's going to be the next sign I go into for Nick Castellanos. I like Adolis. I think he's going to be better than Nick Castellanos, but if you think Adolis is going to be this much better than Casti, you're completely wrong. Adolis is a decent player, but you're banking on him bouncing back similar to Max Kepler, and we saw that worked out. And you're essentially replacing Harrison Bader with Justin Crawford. I like Justin Crawford. I think he's going to be a good player. Hope Philly takes it easy on him because he's a rookie. He's put in almost an impossible situation replacing a guy that was beloved like Harrison Bader. You didn't improve your ball club there. And when they signed Adolis, so getting into the signing, I think it was a good move if they made the right corresponding move of re-signing Harrison Bader, putting Justin Crawford in left field, and trading Brandon Marsh. But Dave Dombrowski has lost the ability to make a creative trade. He can't do it anymore. So, like, that's the infuriating part of where it's like, yes, your chips are all in from a money perspective, but from a pure talent, the moves you have made have hindered you from actually competing with the LA Dodgers. But next move, signing Brad Keller. Love the Brad Keller signing. I think it's an A-plus move, right? I think Brad Keller is going to be a real setup option for Johan Duran. But the move the very next day, trading Matt Strahm. Now, I got on this podcast the day of the Matt Strahm trade and reacted to it. So originally, I liked the move, not based on the return, because the return wasn't really anything. I was under the notion that they were trading Matt Strahm for salary relief to really improve the ball club. And I could see in their like meetings that they're saying, well, you had to re-sign JT. That's where that money went. We'll get into that whole thing next of how JT, he had no market, but the Phillies overpaid for him. Like that sucked. But now that you traded Matt Strahm for almost nothing, I get it. Matt Strahm has struggled mightily in the postseason. He's still one of the best left-handed relievers in the game. And now you really don't have a really good left-handed reliever. You could say Jose Alvarado is coming back this year for a full season, but we saw what he did after he came back from the PED suspension. He was terrible. Now, we're banking on that was rust. You know, he missed a few months due to the suspension. Cool, right? But you're banking on something that's not for sure. Matt Strahm, like if money wasn't a thing, if the money was moved for someone else to improve the ball club, like bring Harrison Bader back, that would have made sense. But you didn't do that. So essentially you just brought Brad Keller in for Matt Strahm, to where I think Brad Keller's better than Matt Strahm, but why not have both? Why not have a Super Bowl pen? Why not compete with the Dodgers hitting with great pitching? But so that move right now looks like a complete dud. And then the very last signing, JT Realmuto coming back to the Phillies, 3 years, $45. So I think JT's a good catcher. I think he's still top 5. I think if you don't think he's top 5, he's definitely top 10. It's not who you brought back. It's how he played you, similar to how Bo Bichette played you. Because JT spoke to the media today, and he said, I always thought I was going to go back to Philly. It got a little shaky at the end, but then the Phillies missed out on an opportunity, and they called me the same day. Obviously, that opportunity was Bo Bichette. But JT said that they upped the offer, and that's why the deal got done. Dave Dombrowski, do you not know that JT had no market? The only team that I read that was in on him was the Tampa Bay Rays, and this was a report from Ken Rosenthal. And Ken said that the Rays were interested, but they weren't in the same stratosphere AAV-wise as the Philadelphia Phillies. So you bid against yourselves. You overpaid for an aging catcher who might have already hit the decline. He hit the decline, but we might just see the absolute crash and burn this year. And I love JT. I think he's the best catcher in Phillies history, and I don't think it's relatively close. But why are you overpaying when you didn't have to? It's a panic move, and it just shows that Dave Dombrowski is nowhere near the GM he was in Boston, nowhere near he was the GM in Detroit, in Florida. He is either checked out mentally because he's focused on Nashville with the expansion team, or he's in over his head now. He's hit that point in his age to where I don't know if the conjugate is like not all there or whatever, but in totality, Dave Dombrowski is not who he used to be. And I've heard all these reports of like back in the day, Dave Dombrowski would fleece people in trades, all that kind of stuff. Well, the other GMs have kind of caught up to his little game. And now he can't make the trades he wants to. Like last year, there's a report that he offered Casty and Bone for Kyle Tucker. And then the Astros hung up the phone. Like that's just who Dave Dombrowski is as a GM anymore, to where he's not good anymore, dude. Like, it's just baffling that you would give JT that kind of contract when you didn't need to. Like, if you brought JT back, like, here's what they should have done. They should have said, look, I get it. We just lost Bo Bichette. But what we're not going to do is panic, because that shows a incompetence of an organization. They should have been like the JT, look, the offer we offered in December, whether that was 3 years, 35, 2 years, whatever it was, right? It obviously wasn't as much as what they eventually gave him a couple days ago. They should have been like the JT, look, this is our final offer. We're not trying to disrespect you. This is what we value you as. And if you don't want to come back and take that offer, then go somewhere else to where they could use that money to improve the ball club somewhere else. Maybe a Harrison Baber. Maybe a Harrison Bader, maybe another starting pitching, maybe another reliever, make a trade, whatever, add some money. But they didn't do that. They pivoted and they panicked. So yeah, that move was just, it's just so infuriating. It just shows like where Dave Dombrowski is as a GM. And I don't even blame John Middleton, because his job is to write the checks and kind of let the president of baseball operations do what he does. He's fronting the money. The payroll's going to be $300 million, but it's like, where is that money gone to? Dave Dombrowski has not spent John Middleton's money correctly. We know it. Nick Castellanos, Taiwan Walker, overpaying for JT. So that's just kind of the totality of the offseason. And I understand that if we would have got Bo Bichette, we would have let JT walk. The city would have been electric. We would have been praising Dave. But here's the thing. That didn't happen. So now we're here. Now we're complaining about Dave Dombrowski. And it really stems from his comments of how tone deaf he is, to where him saying we got a good club when he knows everyone's going to like clip that and be like, there's Dave saying his age-old quote. Like, just what he really should have done is just said, look, it sucks that we didn't get Bo. We tried. We did everything we could. And in reality, I don't think they did, because if he didn't accept the offer when you gave him what he was asking for, you should have known he was playing you, to where you should have upped the offer. Whatever, like the Bo Bichette signing, it's done. But he should have been like, we're going to do everything we can to improve the ball club, because, and I'm going to say this for the last time, he showed his hand with us even being involved in the Bo Bichette sweepstakes, that we were a bat short. And not just a bat, a 4-hitter that could change the dynamic of the lineup come October, to where it'd be Kyle, Trey, Bryce, Bo, or flip-flop them any way you see doable. And then to come back and just say we're content with the club. So you're content with not being anywhere close to the Dodgers that you were last year. But I think this will be the last kind of episode of me harping on Dave because if what he said is true, there's going to be no moves. And yes, that sucks, but it's kind of like, okay, this is the team. I want to be that hopeful Phillies fan for you guys to where I don't want to keep harping on what could have been because once the game starts, spring training, once opening day against the Texas Rangers starts, and I'm going to lock in and I'm going to just put all my focus on the ball club we have and trying to win another World Series because I hate being negative. I'm always that hopeful, optimistic fan. That kind of helps me cope with like everything that's going on. So this will be the last Dave Dombrowski episode unless any moves come out or unless any unbelievable comments like he did today. So that'll do it for this episode of Baseball for Maniacs. Me and Ryan are going to come back with an episode tomorrow night. I think we're going to go over, it'll be like a Hall of Fame episode. Kind of, we'll have a list of a bunch of players to where we think, are they Hall of Famers? Or are they not? And we could think they're Hall of Famers, but we could also be like, well, does the committee think they're Hall of Famers? So that's going to be a fun little episode, kind of get our minds off of what of a disaster this offseason has been. But thank you guys for joining us, and you guys have a good night.